Hello everyone, welcome to this week's Facebook Live. I'm joined by Alex and Alan, and we're here to talk about movies. Obviously last night the new Avengers movie came out, but yesterday they also made the announcement for the next James Bond movie, Bond 25. They announced the bad guy and some of the writers, not the title, confusingly enough. They're obviously still thinking that one over. Are you a fan of Bond movies, Alan? Are you?
Yeah, I love James Bond. My Bond, I grew up watching Roger Moore. However, now I'm a little bit older and I've seen Bond from the very beginning. And obviously, Connery to me is the perfect Bond. He's got it all. But yeah, I love the character. And again, favourite Bond films would be Connery's, Goldfinger. What else? Dr. No, the first Bond that was made. So yeah, I'm a big fan of Bond.
I'm the same as you. I grew up with Roger Moore, really, and that was the definitive Bond until I went back and did the sort of Sean Connery's, and I think he's really kind of unmatched. But I do like Daniel Craig.
Yeah.
I do think he's got that sort of muscularity and manliness that sort of suits the role as well. I think he's doing a pretty good job, so I'm glad he's doing another movie. It's good to see.
Who would be the next one, though? That's the
question.
question.
What a question. Dear me, I don't know.
I don't think this is a problem we're going to solve here today.
We can put that out there. If you think someone would be perfect for the next James Bond, then we'd love to hear your suggestions.
Yeah.
And if you've got a favourite movie, I mean, we're going to try to have a fairly wide-ranging discussion here to get ready for the DC Thompson's movie quiz, which is next week.
Very exciting.
But if you have a favourite movie that you want to talk about, just put it in the comments there, and we'll maybe try and have a chat about it as well.
Yeah.
I won't start out with what's your favourite movie, because that's also a tremendously difficult question to answer. But, so the Avengers, are you Avengers fans? What do you think about this massive blockbuster kind of train that's been going for the last 10 years?
I really enjoy them. I do. I don't mind that it's been going on for a long time. I'm quite happily get quite kind of nerdy about it. I quite enjoyed it's not a film obviously, but the Game of Thrones, the sort of continuation of that. I feel the same about the Avengers. I quite enjoyed it. I think it's been well written as well, which I think has been the key to keeping it fresh and entertaining, and it's kept me interested in it. I don't know, going beyond this, I don't know whether I'll be able to keep that level of interest. I know that there's phase 4, I think, after this for them, so moving into the second sort of decade of these films maybe a stretch too far for me personally, but I think if the writing's good, you can almost any idea can work on the big screen, and they've done good work with the Avengers. It's a lot of fun.
I have a confession to make that I don't know much about the Avengers. So am I right in saying, is it based on Marvel?
Yeah, Marvel comic books. Yeah.
Okay, and it's just like heroines coming together that basically fight crime.
Like a super group.
Okay, yeah.
Like the Travelling Wilburys, but for fighting bad guys.
Yeah, okay. Well, maybe it's never too late to get into a franchise, so I'll maybe... I think I've seen like Captain America and things, so it's obviously, this is just a spin-off where all these characters come together.
Absolutely.
And
I'm sure there's a lot of... I mean, they are based obviously on these comics that were a lot to do with the Stan Lee, one of the original creators of the... and his writing was solid. I think the stories behind it are good, and I think in a sense they're as valid as I shouldn't dare say it, as valid form of literature as anything else. Really, I think there's good stories.
Getting into controversy. So speaking about writing, Alan, you had put something up on the website quite recently about how writing stories and writing movies, the similarities between the two.
Yeah, I believe that to me, storytelling, it's a visual art form, whether it is, literature or a movie or something on television. So I believe that the crossover is very much in evidence, and you can learn from one from the other. So I still believe that. I think movies especially are really good at dialogue and writers, even if short stories, can learn so much from movies, and it's almost like when people are discussing books, they'll never talk about what's your favourite line from this from this book. But films, everyone's got a favourite line from a movie.
Yeah.
And I think it can teach you so much in relation to just being concise in what you're trying to say, and appreciating what your characters are even feeling. So I think there is, you can learn from one a sort of craft as you can from the others.
I think some of the old movies are particularly brilliant at dialogue. I don't know if anybody's seen, remember a film called His Girl Friday? That's about 70 years old now. It was a Cary Grant film, and I think it's 2 newspaper reporters in that one. And apparently it's about 100 words per minute they get through in the dialogue. The dialogue is so fast between the 2 characters. And it's become a bit of a classic. I'm not sure if it is a Frank Capra film, but it is a real, and some of the old ones are just fantastic. We were talking about Jimmy Stewart, his name came up earlier. I love a lot of his films as well, and
It's a Wonderful Life is a Frank Capra film.
It's a Frank Capra film, isn't it? And It Happened One Night. And, these are all just really, really great
I've got
dialogue
a couple
films.
of examples here. Frankly, My Dear, I Don't Give a Damn.
Yeah, that's a great line.
And From Gone with the Wind. And May the Force Be With You.
Everyone knows. Everyone knows it.
But it becomes part of society almost, and people will just they'll say that and just listen to all the best for your exams or whatever. So
my brother and I communicate almost exclusively in quotes from movies. We've abandoned conversation in favour of just talking in bits from films.
So that's the thing. Do let us know if you've got any favourite lines from movies as well, because goodness knows there are enough of them out there.
No, very much so. So I think you can certainly learn from movies and use that even to short stories. It's a good learning curve. And so what about genres? Have you got a favourite genre at all in relation to movies, or are you open to?
I'm pretty eclectic.
Yeah, I'm fairly eclectic, although I will say that in defence of brainless action movies, I think they have a place. I think that there are certain times of the week where you will think, I'd quite like to watch something that's a little bit silly, and I don't have to think about it too much.
Yes, I'm with you there, especially after a Friday evening or Saturday evening where you've had a hard week at work and you just want to watch something that just washes over you. So
I do enjoy a good Western as well, which I'm glad to see a few of them have been popping up again recently. There was one in the cinema recently called The Sister Brothers or something. And then the Coen brothers remade that classic, I think it was a John Wayne film, but they remade True Grit recently. I think Westerns are a really interesting sort of genre as well. The old kind of Clint Eastwoods and the good, the bad and the ugly and all this kind of stuff. Really good fun.
And the fact that they're still shown nowadays, is constantly reinventing the genre. It shows you the popularity.
For a while they were called revisionist westerns, the Clint Eastwood stuff, where they were showing you kind of, it was a bit grittier, it wasn't all kind of cowboys versus Indians, it was sort of a lot more going on.
It's funny, I like science fiction, but I'm not keen on reading science fiction, but again, if it comes to watching something sci-fi, I totally buy into the story world and the characters. So some things I would watch on screen, but when it comes to reading it, I don't know if I would be a sci-fi fan.
I think it helps to. I think this came up in a discussion we had a couple of weeks ago, but I think it helps sometimes if the film adaptation has been made. It helps you to see what the author was kind of imagining, especially if they were involved in the writing of the film. And sometimes that's helped me go back and get into a book, because I think I mentioned before, but with Lord of the Rings, for example, it's not something I find particularly easy to read, because I can't always picture the difference between an elf and and an orc. But when somebody's gone to the effort of taking that, I don't have to think about that. I can just concentrate on the relationships between the characters, then I can really get into it. And I did enjoy the Lord of the Rings films, and was then able to go back and enjoy the book. But I know some people find it very much the other way around.
It's obviously you've spoiled it for yourself, so you go back and read the books, but maybe with a fresh eye as well.
Definitely.
I was sort of that guy that goes to films and says, that's not what happens in the book. There's always one, and he was me. We've had a comment here from Harriet, who lived near Roger Moore's parents. in Frinton on Sea. They were a lovely couple. A renowned gentleman, so I would be surprised if his parents weren't the same.
Or anything else.
Yes.
Yeah, he was a good interviewee as well, Roger Moore, I remember. Because he was getting on in his years, he became quite frank in interviews and became a little bit hard to contain his opinion, but he was he was good.
Is there a raft of unpublished Roger Moore material?
Probably, yeah. Got a bit controversial towards his later years. I think he left the UK, didn't he, to live somewhere else as well. I don't even remember if he starred in many of the films. I don't know if you guys know.
No, he did The Saint, the
so
television show, which
yeah.
was very good.
Yeah.
But no, I'm not certain.
No, I think, and again, it's maybe actors, do they get stereotyped, if they appear,
when you don't
find it hard to break away from that role.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
It was quite interesting when we were lucky enough to have a talk from a Scottish actor called James Cosmo a few weeks ago here in our building in Dundee, and a lot you might not necessarily know the name. He appears in some Bank of Scotland adverts up here, but he's this massive character actor who's been in loads and loads of different things over the years, and he said something interesting about that younger actors very much find themselves typecast in the roles that they take on earlier in their career. But he'd started, I think, sort of maybe late 30s, early 40s in acting, and found that it hadn't really happened to him. He'd been able to escape that kind of typecasting.
Yeah.
I think once you've been young and got into a role, and you're thinking of like Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. Certainly the Bonds as well. I think they struggle to escape from that.
I know it's a TV role, but Doctor Who's maybe a good example. They only seem to do a season or 2 seasons at the most, and then
I wonder if they're
if they're maybe trying to avoid becoming Doctor Who.
Very much. The
money is good, eh?
Well, they're making a living at the end of the day. So, favourite movies. I don't know if it's just because of a nascent interest in Britain's military history or the fact that it's on television every Christmas, but Zulu is my favourite movie. Michael Caine and Stanley Baker and Jack Hawkins. I find that movie absolutely tremendous, and as soon as I get to the end of it, I can commence watching it again without really worrying about it too much. But a thing that I think is quite good and doesn't get talked about very often about that movie is it was made in 1963, and it's about British soldiers fighting off Zulus in Natal in the early 1800s. And despite the fact it was made so long ago, it goes out of its way to not dehumanise the enemy, which some kind of period movies or movies from around about that time don't take quite that amount of care. It's just kind of like they're the bad guys and we're the good guys. There's a lot more of a nuanced picture in that movie than I think gets recognised sometimes. I'd like to think that's a reason why I like it, but I was very young and I probably didn't figure that out when I first started watching it. So what about you guys?
I've written down a few. The Untouchables, there's 19, I think it was 87, an 80s gangster film.
Kevin Costner
and Robert De Niro, and it's about Elliot Ness, the federal agent, and how he tackles Al Capone's gangster. Just his empire basically, because he pretty much ran a lot of the crime back then. But yeah, I really liked it. I can watch it again. It's really, some books very rarely I'll read again, but movies I'm quite happy, like you say, to watch them again. And it's maybe just the feel good factor, obviously the entertainment value, but this one I really like, the soundtrack, the acting. Albeit Connery doesn't do a great Irish accent.
Although he did win an Oscar. Best supporting actor for that film. That's the only Oscar he ever won, and that's the only time he attempted an accent.
And again, that's part of the appeal. It just has charm written all over it. So I really like the Untouchables.
There's some really interesting videos on YouTube of dialect coaches watching these old films and seeing how well different actors do with attempting accents. I think, bless him, but I think Sean came up as one of those ones that doesn't, whatever he's doing, it's the same. It's the same accent.
Is Russian in Hunt for the Red October is not terribly good either. However, a fantastic performance, but not very good.
Exactly.
We've had a comment here from Amanda. Hello, Amanda. She is saying that she's not much of a film buff. She read A Man Called Ove by Frederick Backman and then watched the Swedish film. There's a lot of sort of Scandi noir stuff going on. Have you read any of the likes of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo and seen film adaptations?
I've never read the books to compare with the films. I did enjoy the films. That one was particularly hard hitting, as they usually are. But I don't know if it was a book originally actually, but we watched Let the Right One In, which is quite a creepy one as well about a child vampire.
Yeah, they did an American remake of that, which is vastly inferior.
Not as strong as
the
the
original.
not as strong as the Scandinavian original, but yeah. I think we've seen a few. Is it Joe Nesbo? To the adaptations of those films, I thought were quite good as well. But again, I've not got the book to compare them to. I think I might have said this in a film before, but I tend to think that if it's a short story, then the film has room to expand on the short story. If it's a big book that they're condensing into a film, I think anybody that's read the book is going to see the bits that have been skipped over to make the film fit the length that it should be. And
it runs the risk of maybe they're skipping out something that you really liked that you read, and it kind of colours the film for you a little bit.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, Shawshank Redemption is a classic example for me. I think it was a short story by Stephen King, and it was just an absolutely fantastic film. I thought. Really always pops up in the list of favourites. It's usually at the top, I think, but I really enjoyed that one. That was really good.
Fantastic. What was Star Wars? I mean, I know you guys might be biased, but do you have a favourite Star Wars?
The dark one in the middle, The Empire Strikes Back, I think.
The frequent winner, but I would have to say it's Return of the Jedi, and I think it's because I was very young and Ewoks are very cute.
I'll go against you all and say it is the first one I saw, but not the first one. Is it Episode 4, A New Hope? Was that the one? So probably that one, just because it introduced all obviously the characters and things. And I still remember being in the cinema watching the start where you saw the two spaceships, over the screen, and then the bigger ship just and Darth Vader coming through the corridor at the start there as well. Just even now I think it's goosebumps thinking about that.
We read there's a lot of parallels between obviously the Star Wars movies and the westerns made back in the sort of 40s, 50s and 60s and stuff. It's the same kind of characters, and
it was like the sheriff. He'd wear the white hat, and then the bad guy would wear the black hat.
Exactly, yeah.
So it's very simple.
High noon in space.
It works,
very much.
There's a book that I'm now struggling to remember the title of by a chap called Joseph Campbell, where he talks about how there's only a certain number of stories that you can tell, and there's only a certain number of characters, and basically every single story is kind of a rejumbling of these elements.
I can't remember what the number is, but I've heard something about that. So I've heard like 7 stories in the world or something, and they are basically retellings of the same thing. But I don't know. I do like the old ones. I'm a really big fan of those Frank Capra movies. I love Mrs. Smith Goes to Washington. Don't know if you guys.
I haven't seen that one actually.
They're really really good. There was one I saw completely by accident called Random Harvest, starring a guy. Greer Garson, who was a big star and won an Oscar in the 40s for a film that she did about the war, and an actor called Ronald Colman, who was really big in his time. And it is based on a novel. It's the most random and plausible plot about a guy who comes back from the war and he's lost his memory, so he doesn't know who he is. So he starts a new life and falls in love with a woman, and then he goes away to get a job, and he gets hit by a taxi and forgets everything that he's just done and regains his original memory.
So what's that called again?
It's called Random Harvest.
Okay.
It's quite a rare one, but it's just one of these sort of classic gems. I love the old ones. I do.
I mentioned Shane from 1953, the Western starring Alan Ladd. And I just love that. It's good old fashioned storytelling at its best. He's a gunfighter, but he's basically he's no longer fights. He's hung up his gun, but. And then at the end he he wins. I think it's Jack Palance that
Yeah, I think he's the bad guy in that, yeah.
that he defeats at the end. But yeah, it's just a great movie. I think 1950s. I think it was colour. I'm sure it was colour. So yeah, I love the old ones as well.
Yeah.
So, Hitchcock as well. Back in the day.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh yeah. So many. Do you remember the sort of joy on? Did you guys, I don't know, on like a Saturday or something, you'd go down, or your parents would take you down to like a Blockbuster or a video shop or something, and you have that's all the choice there and everything, and all these kind of movies to rent.
That was a big thing when I was a kid. It was Saturday to the video drive-in. And
are we talking VHS here?
I'm talking VHS. I wasn't a V, it might be more of the sort of DVD generation, but it's VHS.
Yeah, no, I remember that. I was old enough to go down myself and get a couple of, but yeah, it was good to see. You can watch something during the day, in the evening, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
And,
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah, yes. The good old days.
We've had a comment here from Claire, who had a problem with the Hobbit movie versus the book. I think that's maybe something that we were speaking about, a bit like Lord of the Rings. It can kind of go either way. Either the book is too slow, or the film glosses over too much.
I don't think the Hobbit movie was so well received as Lord of the Rings.
No.
You know, but maybe you're following that up. You know, such a massive.
There's a huge section of the Lord of the Rings they miss out, where the hobbits, before they even get to the bit where they meet. Sorry, this is really dorky. When they get to the bit where they meet Aragorn for the first time, there's a huge section where they get lost in the wood and they fall asleep under a tree and all this sort of stuff. And it's actually quite surreal. I think the film actually benefits from cutting that out. But I don't know, it depends if you enjoy that section. I think, I can imagine in The Hobbit, I don't know if I've read The Hobbit actually, I can imagine there are sections in this that it feels a bit wrong.
Yeah, and we've had a comment here from Sandra as well, who's been rereading The Horse Whisperer, and she says that the book contains a lot more about the anguish of the horses and the riders.
That's a good point.
These are things that are easier to represent in a book than they are in a film. A lot of internal thought is quite difficult to represent in films.
And my memory of that film is very much about characters, Robert Redford and Scarlett Johansson, Kristen Scott Thomas and stuff. I don't really remember the horses' anguish as part of that.
No, that's a
beautiful
good point.
film.
Is Scarlett Johansson in that?
Really young Scarlett Johansson. She was the girl.
Daughter,
Back in the day. Beautiful film.
You're a fan of old films, Alex. What is your favourite?
I'm really partial to I think Marilyn Monroe did some great ones. I love Gentlemen Prefer Blondes and Some Like It Hot. I think it's going to be 12 Angry Men, actually. I think that's a real classic. And just a masterpiece. It's something that could have, maybe even was actually, so excuse my ignorance, but would work as a play because it's all set in the one room. The guys arguing over the court case.
I think it did start as a play, that one.
It would suit it. It was but just characters and dialogue all the way through. That's too many to name. Streetcar Named Desire. I thought that was brilliantly done by Marlon Brando. All that stuff.
With me, it's just like movies that I can recall. You know, I may watch for the first time. Say The Wizard of Oz. I watched when I was a child, obviously. Was the first time. And to me, it still holds up nowadays. You know, and I always have a special place in my heart. I like Ben-Hur. I just think that's such an epic filmmaking. It's sort of the golden age of Hollywood, you know, and it just kind of had everything. They talk about nowadays car races, car chases as well. To me, that's got the best race chase in the world, and that's the chariot race that you can go round, you know. I really enjoyed Pulp Fiction. I just thought it was the soundtrack, the script was just very, very quick, very witty. So, and they say to Neil to say, top 3 films, you know, it's really difficult to do, isn't it?
It's like tremendously difficult to do.
Favourite songs, but with me, it's definitely movies at certain periods of my life, you know. I find it easier to sort of categorise on them.
Remind you of certain,
Iain, have you got a favourite?
Yeah, I mean, I do, and the order changes depending on when you ask me. Obviously, Zulu's there. There is a Sean Connery, Michael Caine movie called The Man Who Would Be King, which is a fantastic movie. slightly more modern, I guess, Inception was a great movie.
Very clever.
That's the kind of movie where you're sitting through it the whole time. It's forcing you to think about what's happening. You're trying to kind of keep track of things. I know that can sometimes be confusing. I mean, I showed that movie to my parents and they were not big fans because I think they got lost a little in what was happening. But visually, absolutely stunning, and the script was really, really good. The Shawshank Redemption is a tremendous movie. And one that everybody thought would fail when they were making it.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
I've watched sort of behind-the-scenes documentaries about it. And they didn't expect it to make any money at all. They'd gone over budget. A bit like Titanic, actually. That's the very same thing. That was at the time the most expensive movie that that had ever been attempted, and they were convinced it was going to, for want of a better phrase, sink. And of course it didn't. It was tremendously successful.
I had a thought there when you were talking. How much do you feel like, do you look at a movie from a director's point of view? You know, like I think an example like Citizen Kane. You know, the Orson Welles was so famous, but I think it's more famous for the way he approached the movie
itself,
the actual story. So I'm wondering, even nowadays, do you think people they'll look at a movie and they'll see it, you know, or at least appreciate it from how the director tells a story? Because obviously the director, the actors, and the screenwriters have a say in it, you know.
Yeah, I don't know
if
I
take it for granted.
Yeah, I don't know. I think you see it more as you get older. You don't necessarily see that magic going on when you're younger. I think maybe more the writing I appreciate these days than I necessarily see the director. Maybe if I knew more about what the directors did, I would probably be able to appreciate it. But I think writing good dialogue is something that immediately stands out, and I can appreciate that now more. You know,
exactly.
But
that's where we came in. We started off.
We
started off in dialogue.
Well, I think that's probably a good place to end in that case. So thank you for joining us, and if you have any other comments about your favourite movies or some of the movies that we've talked about here, or even you know, the difference between movies and stories and things you've seen in the magazine that you think kind of were visually arresting, comment below and we will get back to you. But otherwise, we will see you next week.
Have a good weekend.
Bye.
Bye.